You're listening to In Your Pants with Dr. Susie G, the physiotherapist for your privates, helping you get in the know down below.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Susie G here, and welcome to another In Your Pants podcast episode. Today we're going to be talking about all the complexities of what men are dealing with when it comes to sexual health issues and intimacy, and how pelvic pain really impacts social support and the need for connection with other fellow men to find that sense of community, that sense of safety, to be able to be vulnerable and express how they feel, particularly when dealing with pain, sexual issues, and intimacy. And to help me do this, I have Dr. Teresa Johnson. And Dr. Teresa Johnson is a licensed psychologist in North Carolina and New Hampshire, and she's a certified sex therapist. She works primarily with individuals and couples to address sexual intimacy issues, including desire, performance, pelvic pain, and anxiety. And we know that all of those issues do come up for people who are experiencing any type of distress or pain, particularly related with their genitals. It can be a really scary thing. So I'm so glad to have this openly candid conversation with Teresa today. And without further ado, I welcome Teresa Johnson to the show. I hope you guys enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here on the show. This is Dr. Susie G, and I've got Teresa Johnson, sex therapist, psychologist, and we're going to be chatting to you about sexual health issues, particularly for men and men who struggle with, pelvic pain or other intimacy issues. So, Dr. Teresa, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this work.
Oh, okay. Let me think of a short description of a long path. What I would say is it started with just an interest in sexuality years and years ago, and really seeing that within our mainstream culture, we don't have a lot of healthy messages. And so I've just been excited to find some way of helping people connect with their sexuality, with their sexual selves, because I believe we all have some aspects of ourselves that are innately sexual, and we can be more or less connected to those aspects, which I think impact us in so many places in life. And so when I was in grad school, I got excited about the possibility of becoming a sex therapist because I had a supervisor who was practicing sex therapy, teaching us a sex therapy class. And then I discovered there were another long path to become a sex therapist. So I kind of gave up on that. And not too long after I started my practice, through my professional organization, I joined a committee. And the woman chairing the committee said, I'm a sex therapist and I will be retiring soon. So if anyone is looking for supervision, this is what I'm doing now. And it felt to me like the universe just aligned in this, like, oh, this is meant to be. Here's this amazing opportunity I thought I would never have, that I'd given up on years before. So I kind of feel like it fell in my lap, that what I was really seeking just showed up. So I was able to do supervision under Dr. Judy Rowan, which was amazing. And so it's just, from there has been more like this deepening what aspects of sex therapy, because that's so broad, what aspects really draw me, where are the needs, what change can I help bring?
What a wonderful story. Well, we're so thankful and grateful of the work that you're doing, because it is an important aspect to everyone's well-being, honestly. I mean, when you're talking about about intimacy and about relationships and our private parts, not just from a biological point of view, but from a psychological and sociological point of view, that is really the crux of the foundation of, our being, really. And from an evolutionary standpoint, right? Like, from an evolutionary standpoint, I always say this, that, pooping, peeing, and sex are pretty foundational aspects for survival and for our human species. So, it's a big deal, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, particularly because you've recently kind of expanded your work into group settings for communication and engagement. Let's talk about that a little bit. Social support, and I kind of want to take it with in context of men and social support and health seeking connection behavior. We kind of go there. What have you seen? How important is it to have social support and the right kind of social support? Because it can, either help you or inhibit you. But let's kind of go there.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I think, a really critical piece. So just as a therapist, what I see often is in initial conversations with clients that they are seeking a safe place to talk about the most important aspects of their lives. And for men, even more so than for women, so many topics are taboo among friends, and which is so much about what we're taught in our culture, how we're socialized, that men are really limited in the social support that they are allowed to receive or that is considered okay to ask for. And so I often see men who are saying, I've never talked with anyone about this, whatever the topic is. I don't have friends I can talk with about this, or my spouse is the only person I can talk to about this, or this is about my relationship with my spouse, so I can't talk with my spouse about it because it doesn't go well, or I have shown this, so I don't want to talk to my partner about this topic, especially when we get into sexuality. Often, even when I have men who have strong social support networks, it's not so much about emotional support. It's not so much about talking about the issues that they're dealing with, what's on their minds. It's more about spending time together, which is really important that they have quality time together. But there's this aspect that I think women are able to access much more easily than men are in being able to process the hard things. And when we're not able to process with another person, often just loops in our mind. We can ruminate on how difficult something is, or tell ourselves we should be able to get through something on our own, especially if our culture tells us if you were strong enough, you'd be able to handle it. If you were smart enough, you would be able to figure it out. And that's just not true. We're social creatures. We're intended to be interdependent. And so in our culture, we are told to be independent and handle everything on our own, or else there's something wrong with us. So a piece of the work, I think, is untangling that unhealthy message, even just to begin to receive support. Yeah.
What a powerful message. And the one thing that some of my patients will say, like, man up. Let's man up. And I always thought about, where do these beliefs come from? Mm-hmm. How did that even happen or unravel? This dichotomy of, this is that, you're this. These are roles we play in terms of gender. We're all just human beings, and we all have our struggles. And knowing that we're not alone in those struggles can really create a powerful connection, on a bigger scale versus, it's just scary when you feel hopeless, helpless, and isolated. We were talking offline, but there, the statistics are out there. The more hopeless and helpless you feel about a given situation, the darker things can get in your world, and that unfortunately can lead to increased risk for suicide. So yeah, it's such an important topic. Now, we're talking about social support, and we were talking about this offline too. I think it's just so good. But let's talk about the type of support that may matter, and particularly when there is a struggle, and whether that's with intimacy and sexuality or pain. I know a lot about pain and the type of support that in your practice, in your experience, what are your thoughts about the kinds of social support? Because it could go either way.
Right. Yes, certainly. So support that is helpful involves receiving empathy, compassion, understanding, right? Those three aspects are crucial for for what we're receiving to actually feel supportive. What we often receive if we go to a friend or someone in our lives and talk through something, it's not uncommon to receive advice or to be told, oh, it'll be okay, right? Something that's placating, not supportive. As we were talking about earlier, a lot of times when we're trying to find support around issues where there's not a lot of support in our individual lives, people go online. So a lot of support is virtual support nowadays. And a lot of that cannot feel so supportive either. So that may be that you get into conversations with people on forums where everyone is just talking about how bad things are, or how frustrated they are with the medical system, or how discouraged they are with their ongoing struggle. And I see clients really suffer from that. So not only are they not getting, the treatment that they need early on from providers who aren't specialized and educated in the areas especially with pelvic pain, but then when they're going online to try to find out what's going on with my body and how do I handle this, a lot of that then brings them to a lower place, and often they come in really discouraged and overwhelmed and not feeling hopeful, in part because of the kind of support, I want to say in air quotes, support that really wasn't useful to them. Yeah.
Right. And that's across the board, not just from, like you're saying, social media or that, but even healthcare providers not getting support, doctors not listening or not validating the person's experience. It's all in your head, or there's nothing that we can find. Take this pill or take those antibiotics. And, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because that is a circumstance that most men will find themselves in time in and time again until they finally reach that point of, I've got to do something different. I've got to explore other avenues. And the internet is a beautiful thing in that they will oftentimes find the help that they need. But it is going through a lot of the trials and tribulations prior to that point that unfortunately does create a greater emotional learning pattern. Because there comes a point where pain is no longer like tissue driven per se. It's never like just tissue driven, but it kind of moves away from that, from the body to now an emotional learning, a memory trace, a patterning, a neurological change, structural change in your brain that happens as, with memories, the experiences, failed treatments, lack of support, that sort of thing. So anyway, I'm on a tangent, but there's biological and neurophysiological changes that occur when someone continues down that path of persistent pain, or whether that be anxiety or sexual health issues or dysfunction or intimacy issues. Those are all neurological patterns that start to gain momentum.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. All true. Absolutely.
I'm on a tangent. I get really passionate about this stuff, and it's like,
I love your passion about this.
Duct tape my mouth. Okay. Where's the duct tape? Okay. So based on that, that's super complex, and I threw that out there. But let's talk about the complexities of what men are dealing with in regard to sexual issues and intimacy. I mean, that's a big topic. We have a short amount of time, but let's go for it.
Yeah. So when men are dealing with, when I'm seeing men who are dealing with sexual intimacy issues, sexual functioning issues, pelvic pain issues, these are all intertwined. Often one of the obstacles is finding the providers, right? So I love that you do this work to put this out in the world so that people actually can find you and find other people who are also doing this work. So often I work with men who had difficulty and took a very long time to even tell their primary care or their urologist that they were having pelvic pain or that they were having sexual functioning issues. Because it takes a lot of courage to be that vulnerable, even with a provider, to even begin at that point. And so they may have been dealing with some of these things for years before taking the first step. And then that first step may or may not have led them to helpful care, right? So I think for anyone who is at this point of saying, okay, I'm seeking support and treatment around this issue. I'm so impressed that you've gotten to this stage because there are so many obstacles to even get to this point. Yeah. and then so much of what gets in the way there, I think, is because of the cultural messages, as we were saying earlier, about that you shouldn't need care. But we also have these unhealthy messages for men about sexuality, that somehow if you're having a sexual functioning issue or pain, that's emasculating. And that could go to the core of your identity as a man. And that I see being a tremendous obstacle to care. So a piece of the work in the psychological work in psychotherapy is working through untangling some of those pieces. That this does not mean something about weakness. This is just like with any health issue. We have these human bodies and we have struggles with our human bodies. And when we listen to them, then we're able to say, okay, what's my body needing? Now can I find the support that I need? How do I take care of myself through this difficulty rather than judging and criticizing ourselves for struggling with something physically or emotionally or psychologically? So really working through that piece that especially men are handed, that they shouldn't need support is that's a huge piece. And then what does it mean? What do they tell themselves it means about them that they're dealing with a sexual issue is another significant obstacle. But working through that individually, I see that's so effective in individual therapy or in couples counseling. So I work with couples who are dealing with intimacy issues. But I'm also really excited for the groups. So a huge benefit. Yeah, this is going to be amazing.
I'm over here on the other side. Maybe you guys can't see me, but I'm like, ooh, ooh, raising up.
Yep. So when we offer support in groups, this is a beautiful opportunity for men to be able to support other men who are dealing with similar issues. And this is incredibly powerful. Research shows that having social support from people who have shared experiences is incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. So offering groups to create that safe space to support each other is our clients and our patients can receive something that individually as providers we can't provide, right? What we can do is bring people together and facilitate a healthy environment and provide guidance and bring in, helpful resources and help facilitate conversations that are uplifting and help bring that hope that you may not get in a forum where you might get bogged down, right? But really bringing the positive energy, offering the guidance, but also really just creating space for men to support other men, to be able to share their experience to whatever level of comfort they have, and to be able to support each other, to be able to validate another person's difficult experience, right? That is so powerful because as humans, we all want to feel seen and understood. And there's so few places in our day-to-day lives where we receive that. But it's really, really healing when we can have it, especially around issues that we've been pushing to the side and hiding because we have some shame or embarrassment about it. So I think it's incredibly important around sexual issues that we have those spaces to support each other.
Oh my gosh, beautifully said. And shameless plug, everyone. Shameless plug. Teresa and I are combining forces to bring you this ultimate safe space, essentially. We are collaborating on creating this group for you.
So in my practice, I work with people across sexual orientations and gender expressions. So I would say anyone who's dealing with pelvic pain, and we want to be thoughtful about this. So if you are male-bodied and dealing with pelvic pain, and if you are not identifying as male, though, then joining a group for men may feel difficult, right? So I would say if you are identifying across gender spectrums and you want to reach out to me individually, contact me and we can talk about the makeup of the group and what may feel safe and affirming and whether the group feels like it would be a good fit for you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And we'll have your information, contact information. You guys can reach out to me as well. But yeah, thank you so much. Beautifully said. Perfect. That's why we're connecting, guys. Yes. That's why we're connecting, because two great minds think alike. And this is a powerful, it's
a team. This is a powerful team that's coming together to kind of combine all of these elements into the healing process for you. And essentially, like, Teresa was saying, or you were saying, Teresa, that we are giving you the power. We're handing over empowerment, self-efficacy, autonomy, independence, so that you can feel resilient in whatever struggles that you may come with in life. These are life skills, guys. Mm-hmm. This is not just, for the current issue. These are life skills that will help you throughout your entire life, the rest of your life. Yeah. So very, very powerful, very powerful. We talked a lot about things. And we talked about sexual health issues and intimacy. I'd like to kind of take this into the anxiety and depression pieces that obviously accompany distress, right? And I feel like anxiety gets a bad rap. Anxiety gets a bad rap. Oh my gosh, I'm an anxious person. And we start to identify that I'm always an anxious person. And you mentioned identity several times, but I'm going to hand it off to you. Let's talk about those components of anxiety and perhaps depression in some cases.
Yes, absolutely. So the majority, I want to say all, but it's never all. Most of the clients that I work with who are dealing with pelvic pain are also dealing with anxiety. Anxiety is part of our human condition. So I would say
yes.
And some of us fight against it more than others. Some people can embrace, oh yeah, I'm a little anxious, and then it just happens and it's normal and it goes on, and right. And then others of us, myself included, get caught up in, oh, there's anxiety, right? What does that mean? What do I do with the anxiety? And that heightens the anxiety. So anxiety itself is actually very normal and natural, and we need it. So it's part of our motivation to get up in the morning. The work that I do with clients when we're dealing with anxiety where it is getting in the way is when the anxiety is really heightened, or we have anxiety about having anxiety. So this, you might relate this if we bring it back to sexuality, is if you have performance anxiety, then you're having anxiety about, what if I'm not able to perform whatever extent I think I should, right? We have these messages about what should happen. And so then there's judgment, and there's self-criticism, and there could be embarrassment or shame. And so the anxiety there really is a fear response, which is a constriction, which is really counterproductive for sexual performance, by the way, because it constricts blood vessels and tightens muscles. And we don't want that during sex. We really want to be relaxed. So
no, the brain is saying, nope, not right now. Right. It's like,
survival mode, not time to create. No. So a part of this, like when we're dealing with sexual functioning issues, is how do we rewind that and get back to a relaxed state rather than a fear state? So when I talk with clients about what's a healthy sexual experience, what's a positive sexual experience, it involves relaxation and connection and pleasure. So
that sounds yummy.
Yeah. I feel like that's the recipe. And then the challenge is, how do you bring each of those elements, right? Because as humans, we have lots of obstacles to pleasure. We have so many obstacles to pleasure, right? And so many obstacles in our culture to relaxation, and also to connection. So connection is about emotional intimacy, which is so much about being authentic and trusting that the person that we're with can really see us and is accepting of who we truly are. And that's really vulnerable. And particularly around sex, we can feel especially vulnerable. So having a sense of emotional safety with one's partner is critical. Be able to relax and feel connected, right? And you need both of those for a good experience. And the relaxation is essential for pleasure. Yeah. So coming back to the anxiety piece, I work with clients around how to move through anxiety, how to work with anxiety when it shows up, how to, especially how to work with that around sexuality and sexual intimacy, so that you can have an improved sexual experience that feels good to you, that is I will say not outcome based, because that's, again, one of the challenges in our culture. And again, more for men than for women, though we all get those messages, is that good sex is about two people orgasming at the same time. And, all of these things about what it should be. It's a pretty boring recipe. So part of the lessons that I try to help my clients with is expanding how they see sex. What is sex? And what are you looking for when you're having sex? What are the rewards of that? What are the experiences you want to have? And learning different ways to do that rather than what they're traditionally told or what's learned in pornography, because that's, our most common teacher around how to have sex is pornography. Lots of bad information there.
That's entertainment, guys. That's called entertainment, not reality, unfortunately. Which is nothing wrong. Everyone can enjoy entertainment, but know that that's, you're looking at like Michael Jordan or that's Michael Jordan from my dad. I don't know if many people who know basketball player Michael Jordan, but not everyone's a Michael Jordan, and that's okay. It's not about that.
And you may not enjoy the same things Michael Jordan would enjoy, and
exactly.
Your partner might not either. So,
exactly.
It's a co-creation. So part of the work in the intimacy with couples is how do the two people co-create a meaningful and enjoyable sexual experience together. So it's about learning in the moment. And when we're anxious, we're not really learning. We're in fear. We're not curious, right? So part of the work is shifting into curiosity and being present and mindful in each moment, connected with one's body rather than caught up in all of the fear thoughts of the mind. And really, really being engaged to even know what you're desiring. How do you want to be touched? How does your partner want to be touched? You really need to be there to know those things.
Yeah.
Right? So that in itself too is part of bringing down the anxiety and just showing up and creating it at the time rather than planning it out ahead of time and thinking what should happen, because you don't. You can't.
Don't write the story before it's been written or happened, right? Before it's happened. Don't write the story before it's happened. Yes. That's beautiful. Beautifully said, Teresa. That's really, really great. And I'd like to add that those are all yummy components and the recipe for pain as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Being mindful, not being in that fear-driven state or fear-avoidant state. Incorporating healthy coping strategies and behaviors that allow you to live life and have a meaningful life versus a life that's all about pain, and pain is the driver. You're essentially shifting the control so that you can gain calmness and peacefulness despite fluctuation in sensations, and working with that and seeking pleasure and joy again. And so often that is lost. And there's a lot of grief. There's a lot of grief that happens with persistent or chronic illnesses and pain and symptoms and stuff like that. And we forget who we once were. And I think that's important to go pleasure hunting and define what pleasure looks like for you right now. And what would you like to have it look like in the future? And creating a vision. We lose that sense of self, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it, guys. Yummy. You are in for a treat. This is, as I said, the shameless plug again, but this group is going to be awesome because we are going to be diving into detail with these very important topics of intimacy, sexual issues, connection, engagement, communication, and pain, understanding our bodies and not being afraid to explore them with wonderful tools and strategies, like I said, life skills that will take you not only from this program or in this current moment, but for the rest of your life. So it's great. Great stuff, Teresa. I'm excited. So tell everyone about your current practice, what else you're doing, what other wonderful communities you're serving, and how people can connect with you.
Yeah. Okay. So I am licensed in 2 states, North Carolina and New Hampshire. So I do a lot of remote work, telehealth. So if you are seeking individual or couples work remotely and you are living in either of those states, you can contact me to work together, or meet in person if that works for us too. And I also offer groups online and in person. I serve people across genders, so I work with people who identify as cisgender and also transgender, genderqueer. I work with LGBTQ community as well, and I also work with people who are in ethically non-monogamous or polyamorous relationships, or relationship is open in some way. I think what else? You can find all the information on my website. That's important. So my website is drteresajohnson.com, and that is spelled DRTERESAJOHNSON.com. Yeah. So I'm super excited to be doing this group with you, Susie. I'm so excited for this. I think this is going to be, an awesome way for men to be able to learn these pieces that are really going to serve them, but also have support, because it's something that I think is really lacking, and as a therapist, I'm looking for where are the holes that, we can be helpful in, filling. Who needs support that's not receiving it? What are the ways in which people need support that are not available to them? When are resources not accessible, even if they do exist? So I'm excited that we're going to be able to offer this and really make it available for people to receive what they need.
Absolutely. And so many we can reach doing a virtual group or an online group, that we can really take this out further than we can had we been doing it individual. That's not to say that there's a time and a place for that as well, but this is just really, again, about that communication, the social support, creating that safe space, and finding that web of support in those resources, and how do we work with those resources, and just having a plan or this safe container. It just makes things so much different. It's different when you have that as an availability versus the paradox of choice and information that's floating around on the internet. It's you have it under one roof, which is really great. So. Right. Awesome. And on that note too, we're going to have a webinar. I kind of wanted to mention that as well. I'm not sure if we have.
I don't think we have a specific date set for that.
Yeah, we don't have a specific date yet, but that will be coming up in the next couple of months, most definitely. And we're looking to launch this group in the new year. So it's something to look forward to, and we'll be sharing all that information to you guys as that becomes available. So thank you so much for listening to our listeners, and also to our guest, Teresa. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and sharing your wisdom and your compassion, because I can tell you're so compassionate about this stuff, and just so calming about your presence. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's just so, you're very calming, and it's great. So thank you so much again for being on the show, and for this wonderful collaboration that we're going to be offering to many people out there in the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, listeners. Hope you enjoyed this show. As always, in loving wellness for your pelvis, this is Dr. Susie G signing off. Until next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Be sure to head on over to drsusieg.com, where you can get more information, show notes, and related articles on today's topic. Also, if you like what you're hearing, head on over to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, and leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks again.
Duct tape my mouth. Okay.